Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be doing a one-page layout today using this photo of my daughter and her horse. This is Bruno. I'm going to be using the Country Lace papers along with the Country Woods papers. I wanted to show you these papers. They're so beautiful. I already have them flipped over. They're double-sided, but I already flipped them over so you could see how pretty these all are. These are all wood grained papers, and they're just so pretty. I can't wait to use all of these papers. Probably going to use this one today. So these are all your wood grains, beautiful wood grains. And then this is the lace, Country Lace set. And there's also some beautiful pages in here. I've also flipped them over so you can see all of them. But look at how pretty all of this is. So originally I was going to use just the Country Lace papers for this photo because I feel like all of the colors are in here well. When you spread this out and kind of look at the first four colors, you can just kind of see that I think it'll look really nice on that. But then I was looking at the Woods paper and they are all the same colors. I basically need 4 pieces of paper and I kind of want one in each color. So I'm going to kind of go through. I really do think that I like this one. And then kind of going through, I want some design on here. I really like these kind of coral color ones, but I don't think it goes well with this paper, so I'm torn on which ones I want to use. I think the gray brings out the grays. Her shirt is kind of grayish blue. And then the greens you can kind of see up here in the trees. And so I'm thinking that all 4 of these colors will look really nice with each other. So I'm going to kind of play around with these papers and mix and match and see what I think looks the best, and then we'll get started. Let me show you what I ended up with here. These are the 4 colors, the 4 patterns that I picked out of these papers. I tried to keep them different so that I didn't have 2 floral patterns or 2 kind of stripes. They all have different kind of patterns on them. I think those go really nicely together. And then I was thinking I was going to use that wood grain paper, but I didn't like it. I liked this better. But then I found this wood grain paper that I thought I could build my layout on. But I really like how kind of feminine and girly this is. And I feel like the wood grain takes away from that. So I think I'm just going to stick with my base white paper and go with that and maybe bring in some darker browns somewhere else. But before we get started, I want to show you this in the catalog. So this is in the annual Stampin' Up catalog, good through April of 2025. And these are the papers. It's on page 51. And it just shows you all the beautiful paper. And they coordinate, like I showed you, very nicely together. I didn't get the extra pieces. I didn't get this embossing folder, although I may go back and get that. And I didn't get this stamp and die cut just because the birdhouse and the planters and things just I don't think would have gotten used. I think they're super cute. My mom really loves birdhouses, but I just don't think that that would get used. So I opted to just go with the paper pack, and I'm super excited to cut into it today. So I'm going to bring in my Versamats here. These are from close to my heart, and unfortunately you can't get them anymore, but I do really love them. So hopefully I can find you all something similar to recommend here soon, but I'm gonna bring those in. I actually only need one because I'm only doing a single page layout today. So I'm gonna bring that in, and like I said, I am following, not following, but I'm kind of, my inspiration is coming from a Pinterest, a layout that I found on Pinterest the other day. So I don't know where it came from. It's really a basic concept. It's just 4 4x4 squares cut into triangles and put around the page. So this is kind of my inspiration. I'm going to go ahead and start with white as my base layer. We'll build on that and see how that goes. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut each of these papers into 4x4 squares to get started. I got my squares cut. I ended up going with a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square. I just felt that 4x4 left a little bit too much border. I didn't want as much of a border, so I cut those down at 4.5 by 4.5. Now what I'm going to do is cut each of these diagonally. This is not my favorite paper trimmer, but the blade on my trimmer got dull and I need to order a new one. So I'll try this again. So we're going to line this up here, corner on the cutting line, corner to corner like so. Make sure it's nice and even, and then we'll put that down. And before I snap that into place, I'm going to bring my blade in the middle, because if I start at the end here, a lot of times it catches that paper and rips it. So I'm just going to make sure that that is as straight as I want it, and start in the middle, go up and then down. That way there's no catching on it. And then for this one, I will line that up again right here, edge, and make sure that it is straight. Go to the middle again, and same thing. And now I've got my two triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of my papers. I have all of my papers cut, and now we're going to lay them out. I did want to show you my paper moved when I was cutting this one, and it cut a weird angle. So I trimmed up the one to make it a triangle, and this one I'm just going to strategically place so that my photo is over it, because I don't want to cut into another piece of paper. So basically I'm just going to kind of set these into their little piles here and start putting them around like so. So I basically want one of each pattern in each square of my layout, and I just want to make sure that they're not in the exact same places, that they're all just kind of a little different. So like this one I think I want over here. We'll put this one on the top, and then I'm going to take this one. I think my photo is going to go over here. So for now I'm going to put that one there, and I can rearrange it later if I need to. Whoops, we'll put this one right here, and then maybe this one over here. That one on the, nope. See, I've already ran into a little problem because I don't want them next to each other, but I'm going to continue on, and then I'll rearrange them once I have them all down, because I want them to all be different. So everything else is okay. So we're just going to put the green over here, and that, well, I don't want the gray there either, so we'll put the gray there. And the blue here, but I don't really want the blue in the same place as that one, so I think what we'll do, let's see, we've got one on the bottom, so we've got two here, so let's put this one, I'm sorry, on the top. This one over here. Yeah, we're just gonna kind of fiddle around with this until it looks the way that I want it to look. So we're getting closer. So I like that. I think that looks pretty good. So we'll start with that. The other thing that I'm going to do is I have this little Tim Holtz edge distressor, and I'm going to go around each of these pieces and just kind of rough them up a little bit. So that's going to take a little bit, but I just want the edges to be a little bit roughed up. So I will do one on camera for you. It's just like little razor blades in there, so you just kind of run it along. It doesn't have to be a lot. I just don't want this to be so straight, if that makes sense. I just want there to be a little bit of dimension, a little bit of roughness to it, even though it's supposed to be a little bit more of a feminine layout for my daughter, and her horse is a gelding, which if you're not in the horse world, that is a boy. That has been gelded, or essentially neutered, if you want to refer it to other animals. But so he's the only masculine part of this layout. But my daughter is a pretty, I wouldn't call her a girly girl, but she's definitely not a tomboy. So I don't want this to be a super masculine page. So I'm just thinking if I just go around and kind of rough up the edges of this a little bit, it'll give it a little bit of dimension and character, if you will. And you can even just kind of take your finger and just rough it up a little bit more. But I just think that adds just a little something, so when you put it down you can see that it's got some dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that off camera because I don't want to bore you, and then I will come back and show you the rest. I have all of my triangles cut and distressed, and it did take quite a bit of time to get that done. Make sure if you do this that you do it over a trash can, because there is a lot of little white pieces that will come off the edge when you distress this. So I got all that done, and I kind of rearranged them. I wanted this center part that's coming in to make sure that it had two of each color, and then I filled in the outsides just so it had a little bit more method to it than just randomness. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my picture about right here. And I think I'm going to double mat it. I'm also going to ink the edges. I think I'm going to ink it in either blue or gray. I'm kind of leaning towards a gray because I don't want the blue to overpower anything. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. This is a 4x6 photo, and I cut this 1/4 of an inch bigger, so it's 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, just so it has the smallest white mat. And I usually do mat my photos in white most of the time. It just helps the picture pop a little bit better than a darker color, or I mean, I could use green, or I even thought about using the color in her pants, but I just like the simplicity of white. I've adhered down all of my squares. I actually really quite like how that looks, and I adhered my photo down to my paper. I'm going to ink the edges with Slate. This is a close to my heart ink, which unfortunately is no longer available. It's a little bit darker of a gray. It will dry a little bit lighter than what's going on here. But I just wanted it to pop. I decided to not distress the edges of the photo. I like it different than what's below it. But I do want it to stand off the background a little bit more than it was, and I feel like that just kind of does it. So I'm just using my ink sponge here. I will link this in the descriptions. It just came off of Amazon, and it comes with 2 of these handles and a whole bunch of these foam bases. So I use 1 of the sponge bases per color, but some people will mix and match, or use 1 for all grays or 1 for the pinks or whatever it may be. I actually use 1 for each color. And again, I don't need this to be perfect. I just need it to have some dimension on it. So I am just putting just the slightest bit around the edges. I'll let that dry. Like I said, will dry a little bit lighter than what's going on here, but I like that. Just gives it a little bit of extra dimension. So I've got that done. I'm going to set it aside to dry, and I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. I'm going to apply some foam tape. I'm using this foam tape from the Papery shop. I got this at Hobby Lobby because I didn't have any on hand and I needed some just for this project. But I do have some on order with Stampin' Up. I will list that in the description below. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and use this so that I didn't have to hold off on my project. So I'm just going to kind of cut a handful of these because I want it to be firm on the back. So I'm going to put quite a few of these on there. Just cut them like so. It doesn't need to be perfect, but just continue to put them across the back. I don't want it to sag in the middle, so I'm making sure that I put enough to keep it from doing that, so that when I put it in my album and the other pages sit on top of it, it doesn't cave in where there isn't tape behind it. And this will allow me to tuck embellishments and whatnot behind it. So we'll go ahead and peel this off, each of these. Please excuse my fingernails. My youngest daughter painted them in mermaid glitter nail polish, and I can't find my nail polish remover to get it off, so it's just slowly chipping off. But I don't mind it. So I've got that down, and I'm gonna just kind of put this right about here. Kind of centered top to bottom, just about like that. So I'll go ahead and put that down. I've decided to do some stamping, and I'm going to be using this set, which is Memory Lane. This is a Close to My Heart stamp, and I've used it a few times. I used this So Much Fun. Today I'm going to use the love and this moment, but I'm going to block out moment. I just want the love and this. And then I'm going to use these stickers that I found in my stash because they're clear and spell out smile. And I am going to do something I have never done before, and that is stamp directly onto my layout. So I practiced on a piece of paper, so it's essentially going to look like this. Love, and then smile right here. What I'm going to do is peel off this love. Let's go ahead and stick it on my block. And this is the first time I've used this stamp. So I rubbed it on my hand, I rubbed it on my arm, I just kind of rubbed all over it to make sure that it's seasoned, to get all those oils off. And then I have I can flip my Versamat over and use the other side for stamping, but I'm just going to use the foam piece that came with it. And I'm going to practice one more time. So I've got a piece of paper, I've got my ink, I'm using black ink, just black from Close to My Heart, because that's what I've got. And I'm going to go ahead and load up my stamp here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put this over here, line it up, and hold it down for just a second to really let that ink kind of absorb onto that paper, and pull it up. And it does stamp really nice. You can see how nice that stamps, and it's just going to fit right in there. So I am going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to hope for the best, because like I said, I have never stamped directly onto my page. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down. I may have to edit out my head here in a minute because I want to make sure I get this right where I want it. I want it right about there. It's down. I'm going to go ahead and push that down for a second, let it soak in there, and pull it back up. And I do actually quite like that. Now for the next piece, I am going to peel off my love, put it back on here, and we're going to take this moment, and I'm going to put it on my block, just like so. And I also haven't used this one, so I kind of just rubbing it around to make sure that it will hold ink. And what I'm going to do is just take a Post-it note. So here's my little Post-it notes. This just seems to work all right for me, and really I just want this. So I'm going to block off moment, just like that. Stick this down to the block to mask that off. It doesn't have to be on the rule, just enough so that when I ink this up, I will only get this. So now that that is stuck on there, I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. So I have this, and now that it has ink on it, I can go ahead and pull that off. Again, we're going to stamp directly on this page, and I want it to be under here. Hopefully I don't get my head too far in here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to just put it right there, and it's down. Let that soak in for a minute, and then pick it back up. Perfect. And I forgot to put my little foam piece under there, and it still came out good. So learn from my mistake. Typically with these poly stamps, the clear stamps, you need to have something underneath it, which is why you can either flip over this Versamat or slide this under here just to give it some cushion to stamp into. And as you can see, I did okay on this one, but there are a lot of stamps where you won't get a good clear stamp without this piece underneath there. So don't follow what I just did and make sure that you put that underneath there. Now I'm actually going to hold on to this because I could fussy cut around it and use it for something else. Now I need to put Smile to finish this up. I'm going to just peel these off and lightly stick them down so that if I need to pick them back up again, I can. I'm using, you can see these stickers have different sizes of the letters. You can see it really well here on the E, has multiple sizes. And so I'm kind of going to stick with the larger ones. These stickers came from Recollections, which I believe I got probably years ago from Michael's. They may sell it, they may not. I will look this up, and if they are still available, I will link them in the description below. But for the S's, you can see here, there's one smaller one, but I really want to use the bigger ones. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of peel these off and just kind of lightly set that down. And I think it's too close to the L. Now these stickers are a little bit more black than the stamp, but it doesn't bother me. I'm going to go with it. And then same here for the M. I want to use the bigger M. These are really kind of tricky to get off of this. Here we go. And being careful that I don't warp that M as I stick it down. So I can already tell that I'm going to need to scoot these over. So this is why I just barely stuck it down. So I'm going to put this S a little bit as close as I can there. And then the M. I'm trying to center it with the stamp, but it may not work out that way. Let's just see how this works if I just kind of set it down there. And then we're going to use, that eye is too big. Well, that eye is kind of too small. And there isn't really one in between. We'll use this one. And I love that the dot is connected so you don't lose it. So let's just set that right there. See how we like this once it's all said and done. We'll use the bigger of the L. Keep it consistent. So my daughter rides horses competitively. She is a hunter jumper, if you know what that means. More so a hunter. This is her horse Bruno. He is an off the track thoroughbred, which means he came off of the racetrack. He's 8 years old, and she has been teaching him how to jump. And on this particular day, she was teaching him, or she was being taught by her trainer, how to do a lead change. If you don't know what a lead change is, you may have to look it up because I'm going to do a terrible job explaining it. But it basically means that the leg, the front leg that is landing in the lead, they can change while they're running. And you have to know how to do it, how to ask for it. And she was learning how to do that, and Bruno did it. And this is the first horse she's had that has been capable of doing that. And when she was done, she was just all smiles. I didn't have to say smile. She walked over to me and she just had this smile on her face, and I just had to capture it. She had had a little bit of a rough go of it lately at this point in time with where she was training at. And she moved to a new barn and they got her doing this, and she was just so happy. So I am going to go ahead and just stick those down. Doesn't bother me that it's over the dimensions there, over the distressed edge. I do really love this smile, and I think that title and sentiment is just perfect. Cut a bunch of these hearts out of the same papers that I used. I have a die cut that cuts these two at the same time. So I'm going to use both sides, but I've kind of just laid them all around. I do think I'm going to ink around the edges. I don't think I'll do them all because I didn't ink any of these edges, and I don't want it to, if I ink too much, I feel like those won't match anymore. So I'm going to ink up just a few of these. I inked up these two small ones, all of the big ones, and a couple of the small ones. You can see the difference between this one that I inked up and this one. This one is still wet and this one is dry. So you can see how light it's going to dry, and it just adds the teeniest touch. I am using this Barely Art Precision Glue. This is my favorite glue for gluing down these smaller pieces, and you just need the teeniest bit of this glue. You don't need very much, and it does dry clear. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. So I've adhered down all of my hearts, and I can kind of bring this up so you can see them up close. Just a little of ink, and the ink is continuing to dry so you can just see. I'm thinking about adding a border. So if I were to take maybe the blue and just add a little border around the outside, I think it just kind of draws everything in and finishes it up nicely. And I haven't decided though which paper I want to use. I'm thinking the blue, but yeah, I don't like that one as much. Let's try the gray. The gray is okay, and maybe the green. I don't care for the green, so I'm going to rule out this peach color and this green color. On this pack, it comes with this cardboard piece as the last piece, so all of your paper comes stacked on top of this, shrink wrapped in plastic, and on the back has all this information. So this is the Country Lace pack, 12 by 12 designer series paper, also known as DSP, and it tells you right here, it consists in this paper pack of the pattern papers. The patterns have basic beige, misty moonlight, petal pink, and smoky slate. So if you wanted to order cardstock that would match these colors, those are the colors that are in this series. So don't get rid of this piece of paper. I'm thinking gray or blue or nothing. I really do think that having a little border adds something, just the teeniest one, like so. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the blue, because it just really brings out, gosh, I don't know, that's a tough call. What do you guys think? Leave me a comment below on if you think gray or blue. So I'd mentioned to you before that I was thinking about inking up the edges of this base page, and as I was going back and forth trying to decide what I wanted, I thought maybe I don't want anything and I just want to ink the edge so that it matches the photo. I went ahead and did all those edges. They're not totally dry yet, but they'll be soft, and I think that is really all it needed, just a little bit to tie it in, and once that dries as light as this, I think it will be perfect. I printed my journaling on just a matching piece of white cardstock, and I printed it in gray ink or font color so that it would kind of blend in with the rest of the colors, and I'm just going to tuck it underneath these bottom row triangles like so. I want it about right there, so we'll slide that under, make sure it's not too far, and we'll stick it down just about like that. And I'll just show you some up close. So this is the finished product. You can see how all that distressing on the edge of these just really gives it a lot of dimension, a little bit more character. You've got the inking on the edges that I think was just what it needed to finish that off. Another cluster right here. So overall, I'm really kind of happy with this. I think this is a very simple layout. This is a great layout for a beginner, or if you don't have a lot of time, or you have scraps. Just, you don't even have to do the stressing, you don't have to do the inking. You can just cut these squares into triangles, stick it down, stick your picture down, and move on. It goes together fairly quickly. I'll go ahead and slide it into a page protector, and we will move on to the next one. Bye!